Oh, here. Hi, and welcome to Tea Time with Amie and Bev.
Good morning.
Just one of those silly things we've done before we started recording. Beverly's trying to cleanse her eye with her beverage. What are you drinking?
Well, it's called a bang.
A
For
Bang?
yeah, and it kind
Awesome.
of slapped back and got me right in the eye.
Banged her eye.
I'm sure it's good for me. I can no longer see out of my left eye. No, not really. I can really see fine.
Okay, so if through this time together you're watching the video and she keeps winking, don't take it personal. She's got issues.
That's funny.
What's going on, girl?
Not a whole lot. Enjoying life. I've been reading a new book. It's called Dying to Be Me. It's pretty flippin' awesome.
Who's the author of that? I've heard that book before.
This one right here.
Yeah. Anita Morjani.
Yeah.
I was like, that sounds familiar. Yeah. Isn't that great?
It is. I happened to be listening to Wayne Dyer over the weekend, and I wasn't really getting a whole lot out of the conversation for me because I've kind of listened to a lot of this stuff before, and then it's like he brought this name up, and I'm like, I think I got that book. Well, I went over and looked, and by God, I got the book. I have been reading it, and I can barely even put it down.
Yeah, her story is freaking amazing.
It is amazing.
And it was Wayne Dyer who brought her forward with her story.
And then just like a lot of practitioners and stuff, the doctors and stuff had brought her story forward, like telling everyone how quickly she had healed, and she was like dead. Her organs were all shutting down from cancer that she had been living with for like 4 years. Yes. And it's pretty crazy because she even talked about, she said our body is only a reflection of our internal state. And I read that and I was like, that's pretty profound. She also made another comment because she did go cross over to she was talking to family. She was an expanded person. And she was also talking about her perception of God was not a person or a thing or anything like that. It was a state of being.
Yeah.
Just a God state of being. So it was pretty amazing. And then it's like, God, you process that in your thoughts, regardless of beliefs. If we have that capability, and it's not like in an abusive way, but it's like seeing things so how I would think that God would see things, just how beautiful every single thing is every single day. Doesn't matter if you've seen that flower yesterday, it's still the most beautiful flower you've seen today. So it's like just kind of looking through eyes like that, the kid eyes, your childlike state.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things I contemplate because everything I've read and, all the spiritual teachers is when we leave this physical body, we go back into spirit. We go back into an energetic field. So it's not like we leave this body and go back into, our spirit goes to another body. I mean, it will later if you believe in reincarnation, but that transition in between state, what they call, Michael Newton is a hypnotherapist who does regressions, and that's what he calls it's the in-between state, which is actually, to me, is actually our true state, our natural state is the energetic state. And to be in a space of energy, an energetic space, how could everything not be beautiful? Like there's no judgment. There's just this loving, compassionate space.
It's true.
And our goal as one of our goals as being in the physical body is embracing that from a from a physical standpoint. Not all of us succeed at that, nor do we do it every day.
But it's a practice, right? We're so used to using all of our other senses all the time. So it's a practice, and that really is what it boils down to. It's really, we all have this natural ability, we'll call it an ability. It's just natural for us, but we're not in tune with it. We became, in tune with our other senses more frequently. But it's like if we add that ability, that natural sense back into everything, if we start practicing with it all the time, then it enhances smell, it enhances vision, it enhances touch, it enhances everything. It's really awesome. So I say, oh, you say, what's going on? I'm like, oh, nothing really. I'm just reading this book. And oh, by the way, it's blowing my mind.
I know. I love it.
No, also she was asking herself questions because she had crossed over and she's like she couldn't believe. I say crossed over. I don't even know how to say that. Her near death experience. She started asking herself questions like, why have I been abusing myself all this time? How come I couldn't see myself or my beauty? Why was I judging myself so harshly? And it's like, I don't think she really had any answers for it. It's just because it becomes something that we've learned from people around us because they've learned it. It's not because they're doing something wrong or we're doing something wrong. It's just a matter of learning something differently. But she started asking those questions like, holy shit, my whole life, why have I been beating myself up for this? For what? For what? Because I thought I did something wrong, because I didn't look like someone else, or because I didn't act like someone else, or maybe I wasn't as great at sports as someone else was, or, wasn't a natural at that stuff. Although if I had tried and put my all into something, I could do whatever I wanted to do. I know that. But it's like we sit and beat ourselves up over stupid stuff. It's like it doesn't even matter. And it becomes such a habit we don't even recognize it. It becomes such a habit that becomes into our body that I've started losing my hair. Do you know what I mean? It becomes such a habit, and it's like we don't even know. And it's not because we're doing anything wrong or anything like that. It's just a reflection of everything that's going on within inside of us.
Yes. And have you gotten to the part, or have you read the part about her and her dad's relationship?
Where she's already talked to her dad in her near-death experience.
Yeah.
And then I know how her relationship was with her father before.
Okay, so what I was going to say was her biggest thing was being a disappointment to her dad because she wasn't living up to what she thought was his expectations for her life.
Exactly, both of her parents, because in her upbringing, because she was Indian, right? I think Hindu or along those things, and she had expectations, and overheard a woman talking to her mother saying, did you feel bad because you had a daughter? And she's like, no, why? And it's like, because a daughter means you have a dowry to pay. That means you have to find a husband. And these women, they grow up and they start having their own minds. God forbid if they have their own mind, because then they're not marriage material.
Right.
And so that was a struggle. So she was always, from the age of 6, I think it was, she was always worried about disappointing her parents or being a problem for her parents. So she would tolerate a lot of stuff, and I think a lot of us have done a lot of that stuff. We just tolerate a lot of stuff and put a smile on the outside of us and act like everything's fine when it's not. And it's presenting questions to me like, it talks about being yourself. She said, it says in there to just be yourself, and it's like, I think a lot of us get so lost, we don't even know what being ourself is. What is that even? How do you even do that? Where do you start with something like that?
We're not taught that.
No,
we're not taught to be ourselves. We're not taught to be, even though we are spirit and body, we're all connected, we're still individuals as human. And to allow us to grow and be just ourselves and what interests us and be a guide for that child. We are more the dominator, the
masculine maybe, or
the person saying this is what you're going to do and this is how you're going to do it and this is the direction you're going to go, and if you don't do this, then right. And just as you're like, one thing is how many cultures is there where the male having a boy is so much more important to their culture than a female, when in fact, let me inform people in case you don't know this, you need females to produce. I'm just saying, we carry those babies, right? So you kind of need us. I don't care what culture in, you need us. True. And I've had some clients too who have lived with the fact that the parents were disappointed, even in the American culture, that the parent was disappointed that they had a girl. And some were raised in a sense of a tomboyish fashion, that this is what I got, so I gotta do the best with training her to be a boy the best way I can, right? And yes. And so then you grow up with that, and you could definitely don't know who you are. You have no sense of what am I? because I've been living my life for my parents or whoever was involved with the upbringing. And just having to get past that identity, that identity was created by the parent. It wasn't created by the child. And then when we don't live up to those expectations of the parent, now we're living with guilt and shame and not being accepted or loved.
Yeah.
That's
And another thing she said about love was what we deserve to be loved simply because we exist. Nothing more, nothing less.
nothing more.
Just because we exist. We don't have to earn anything. There's not anything for us to do, which is such a hard thing to comprehend. And going back to learning how to be ourselves is like we don't know how to be ourselves, so we learn how to be parents as best we can. We learn how to be the best employee or the best whatever. Always. Or else we just give up on life and it's like it's just too much and I'm signing out.
Other than drinking, I mean, for quite some time, I had no idea what I liked. I didn't know me.
Yeah.
I was too busy wrapped up in seeking love from everybody else. I didn't know like what my interests were. I didn't know how I truly felt. I just knew I wasn't good enough for everyone else. And it was pointing the finger on the external. I didn't realize that I was saying I'm not good enough for myself. So when I learned to turn that finger from this direction to this direction, that took some time for that self-discovery. What are my interests? Am I interested in a hobby? Am I interested in arts and crafts? Am I interested in exercise? Like it wasn't things I explored. Because literally my focus was I need to get this person to love me and accept me. So that was my task. I gotta do whatever I can to that people pleasing to get them to give me the attention. That's where my focus was.
Well, because the attention, like we learn when we're kids, good or bad or positive or negative or however you want to look at it, attention's attention, period. So then we kind of seek that. So we've learned to seek something outside of ourselves and we constantly explore that as we're growing older. Hopefully some figured out sooner, but then you're not getting the attention that you want from somebody. And it's like, it's upsetting or you feel like you're not good enough and everything else, but it really, it's learning how to give yourself that attention. I think that's something I learned from you when you're feeling like you need attention from someone else or you're needing love from someone else or whatever, it's like your soul is just wanting your attention from you, not from somebody else, because from somewhere else, it's short-lived. It's not going to last very long.
For sure, because I mean, if you think about it, if you depended upon me to love you, and then finally I get to that state and go, yes, Bev, I love you, right? And you feel that from me, and then I transition or I move away. Who's going to fill that void now? Now you have to find somebody to take my place. That's exhausting. Just want to put that out there. So we got to turn that inward, right? Self-discovery has been the words that have come up a lot lately. Whereas before it's been self-love or personal development and those kinds of words. But recently it's been more about self-discovery, like discover who you are. And that goes like, from my perspective, for me to understand me, I go all the way back to conception. And what have I gone through all these years? And how has it made me behave the way I have behaved in my past? How has it affected the choices I've made? How has it made me look at what relationships are from that perspective of my younger self? how, right? I had to dig into all of that. That is self-discovery. And of course, attending the seminars and reading the books, those self-help books, the personal development books, the spiritual books, all of that helped for sure. But understanding me, that's nobody else's job. That's my job. And then embracing that, I took the step to get to know me. So when somebody says, hey, Bev, what do you like to do? And you rattle off the things you like to do, people would ask me that. I'm like, I like tequila. You know, it was difficult. It was a difficult question to answer.
And I understand that. And you know, if you think about it, if you're wanting someone else to understand you, then they're understanding from their perspective, from what they can perceive. And that's such a different thing, because we've been living our lives like that for a long time, what someone else perceives of us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, looking for validation, looking for attention, looking for appreciation, whatever it is, looking for someone to say, oh, you know what, you look great today. But instead, walk your ass over to the mirror and take a good hard look at yourself and know that you are freaking beautiful. Know that you're amazing, and tell yourself how much you love yourself. And you've talked about it before. I mean, you start out with a tiny mirror that you can only see your eyes. But you got to start somewhere, and that's only because you haven't been telling yourself this your whole life. One of the first classes you ever did, and we had to sit where we were across from people and like look them in the eye. It's like, holy shit, I didn't look people in the eye that long ever in my lifetime. And now it's like I do it. I do it all the time. And I've noticed even with clients, they may become initially, maybe I'll watch how their behaviors are, and then maybe they're a little bit, you know, it's a telltale sign of what they're dealing with in a lot of ways. Maybe not wanting to be seen and, you know, everything else, but you really learn a lot about a person, and it's such a quiet language, really. And I've noticed a lot of that, but it helps us to be more of a benefit to that person. And then to appreciate myself, because I was there. I mean, I know how that felt. I know how it felt not to be seen. I didn't want to be seen for most of my life. I wanted to, but then I didn't want to. I wanted to, but I didn't want to. I wanted someone to say, hey, you look good today, even though I felt like the ugliest person in the room, you know? So it's like, of course, that's two different energies. So I wasn't going to get what I wanted because it wasn't a match. But
Well, you could want that though. You could want somebody to acknowledge you, but even when they did, you'd be like, oh, pff, whatever. You're just
that's
saying
true.
that, right?
Yeah,
It's just
yeah, it's true. The compliments, you know, not being able to accept a compliment, because it just, and even still, I find there are times that might struggle with, like, you're just saying that. And it's like realizing, but then it's like I realize when it's the opposite person, when I'm the one giving the compliment and they say that, I'm like, no, but really, I do mean it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have said it. So it's when I recognize me doing that, I'm like, they wouldn't have told me that otherwise. So it's recognizing, then it's, you know, but that really doesn't matter. What really matters is how I see myself. It's how you see yourself. It's not how someone else sees us, because we live with us full time. We're the ones telling ourselves whatever we're telling ourselves in the head. My stories have gotten a hell of a lot better than they ever had been before in my life.
yay.
Like, you know, it's like I've gotten to a point where I feel like I'm worthy, I am deserving. And it's like that, just that whole thing says, I exist. I deserve to be loved, period. And so does everybody else.
And it doesn't have to be by the person, doesn't have to be by your family member, it doesn't have to be by your friends or the grocery store clerk, right? It doesn't have to be, you don't have to, just because you exist and you are loved, that doesn't mean it has to be from a physical person.
No, no.
God is love.
Yes.
And that energy, that energy, that spiritual energy is around you all the time.
All the time.
But the problem is that because we cannot physically see it, we forget about it. Because there's times I spiral down and I get into those stories in my head and I'm like, wait a minute. Talk to your angels, talk to God, talk to your grandmother, or, you know, whoever else is on, your ancestors, your guides. They're there. They're with you. They're supporting you. They're guiding you. They are loving you. You are love and you are loved, right? That loved, I am loved, is a reminder that my universal team, God, angels, spirit guides, ancestors, family and friends of transition, carry that unconditional loving space for me. And it's up to me to tap into that for myself. And maybe in the moment I can't say I love me, but in the moment I can say all these spiritual beings love me, and they're holding that space for me to love myself.
It's true. And it's learning how to sense the energies because it's there. You don't have to visually see it. It's a feeling. You know, it's something that's come to my mind, and it's like a global thing. We'll just call it a global thing. I don't think that people recognize the energy of things. And I'm not saying that my detector is 100% accurate. I think my detector is 100% accurate, but it is for me. I've noticed that the things that have been going on as of late, people like have a tendency to listen to the words that are coming out of someone's mouth, and they value that more than they value the energy of that person. And that's kind of, I mean, it's it's an eye-opening experience actually. And it was kind of brought to my attention. I have a few clients that have mentioned some things from previous global events, and how they sensed the energy, how they were repulsed by this person's energy, and they didn't really understand why. They never felt that way before or whatever. And it's like now we're in the same space, but it's like I hear so much negative about this other person or place or thing that people are saying is so disgusting and so gross. But it's like every time that I have someone say something to me about this thing, like it's a gift from God, I get freaking goosebumps. For me, that's always a confirmation. So it's like I feel like people, they need to get back to classes, like just the basic classes of learning how to sense energy around them. Really, and maybe it's not so much a class, because I don't know that it's a class that I got to that started it for me. Really, it was me. I walked into a new age store and picked up it was a selenite tower, and I never picked up stones. I never felt anything from a stone, and all of a sudden I felt like higher than a kite, like but not from a drug way, but in a, like I was elated, euphoric. I felt wonderful. Had never felt that way before, and that's kind of how everything kind of opened up for me towards energy. But it's been an awesome journey. And then paying attention to, we talk about empaths, and an empath is someone that picks up on, you know, the energy of others that are around them and stuff. And some people feel like that's a hindrance, and it's not. When you feel something, ask your guides, your God, your angels, your universal team, you know, what am I supposed to do with this? Because it is such a great benefit for us to be able to receive this energy and to feel this energy. And it's not for us to fix it. And that's something I've had to learn over time too. It's not for me to go fix whatever I perceive as a problem, because who am I to say that that is a problem for that person? I cannot say. If they came to me and asked me to help them with whatever, and I recognize it, then sure, but it's not for me to judge, because then that puts me in a place of judgment of what I perceive as their problem, which I had been doing for a long time. It's so easy when you gain so many different new tools. You like want to put them in action right now. It's like, what the fuck do you mean you're not being more positive? What do you mean?
Right.
It's the whole process, and it's like really paying attention. It's a self-exploration, I guess. Like you would probably go back to what we were saying before. It's really something you have to kind of go see, I mean, sometimes maybe it's someone is hearing a sermon or whatever. You hear things, recognize the signs that you get in your body. Goosebumps for a lot of people are just confirmation. And I can get that confirmation if we're having a conversation, or I'm having a conversation with someone at the grocery store. If they say something that is of truth, or I guess that maybe my team or I recognize as truth, it shows up as goosebumps.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get the chills about it.
Mm-hmm. This is why when I created the course that I teach about every 3 to 4 months, and that is getting started with meditation. I'm not telling people, let's dive into meditation, that's how you do it. Let's start. Well, that starting point is learning to be present.
Oh yes, that's a big in
right?
my life these days.
That
yes.
is the starting point. Learning to be present. We got all this mind chatter going on. It's all about past shit. It's all about future shit. And it's like, no, bring yourself right here, right now, where you're at. meaning what do you see around you? What's in the room around you? Identify what's in the, because this is your present moment. This is what I teach first and foremost, being present. So what does that mean besides just observing what's around you? Well, if your mind is so programmed to have willy-nilly thoughts, if you ever sit, I did this after I recognized what they were talking about the mind chatter. If you ever actually just sit and let your thoughts flow, you're going all kinds of different directions. One second you're like, I got to remember the milk, and the next thinking is like, oh, what's for Thanksgiving dinner, right? You're just all over the place, and then there's a glimpse about something from the past, and then it's something about this relationship, and your thoughts are so random, absolutely random. And so if your mind is so programmed to do that, actually, I would just say it's lackadaisical, because we just let it happen. There's no focus. So your starting point with a meditation practice, or just practicing being present, is, I feel from my experience and how I have interacted with my clients and students, is you have to give your mind something to do. So it's counting your breath. It's saying, focusing on a color, breathing in a color. It's focusing on an affirmation. It's focusing on a mantra. It's giving your mind something to focus on, one thing, and you keep your focus on that. If your mind starts to wander, you come back, one thing, right? And you just keep doing it over and over and over and over. Then you're programming your mind to focus, one thing. Then you can get to where you can just feel the breath. You don't have to count the breath or say, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. You're just feeling the breath. Then you can get to the breath is just happening. But your mind is not all over the place, right?
Yeah.
So this is the starting place. Be present. And you have to train yourself, because if you have mind chatter and you are emotionally distraught and you're just wackadoo on the inside, then it's just like hiring a physical trainer. They're going to tell you, do this, do this, do this. Well, when you're practicing being present, I'm going to tell you, focus on your breath. That's going to be the first thing I tell you. Focus on your breath. Because you have to bring your mind and body into congruency. Right now, your mind's here, your body's over here, your emotions are somewhere back there, and your spirit is trying to figure out what the fuck you're doing. I mean, seriously, right?
It's true.
I'm going to say, focus on your breath.
I will also say, on top of that, what I've noticed with a lot of people, they're having pain.
Absolutely.
I'm almost always, it might be neck pain, it might be low back pain, but they're having pain. They're having some discomfort. They're having blood sugars are out of control. They're having all these things that are going on. And that's because
She got all choked up over it.
but it's interesting, because I have been seeing that a lot, and it's like, and it's funny that we're talking about this. I mean, I say it's funny, but is it really? Because I've been telling people too, it's like you're not being present. You know, I'm back to that whole thought. If you're depressed, you're in the past. If you're anxious, you're in the future. You're not present. Present is peace.
Absolutely.
And then when people are having like all these problems, they're like, so like you said, their mind's all the way over here. They're over here. I mean, it's like they're so disconnected from center or harmony or balance or whatever you want to call it, from the flow. I mean, like, you have cut yourself off from everything, and it's uncomfortable and it's confusing.
And with all of that, your body, I mean, it just causes, we just always come back to this. And I'm not going to say, I'm sorry, not sorry. How's this? I'm sorry, not sorry that we mention this all the time. The stress that you are harboring in your body is causing your problems, your physical problems. And that stress either comes from past stuff or future stuff. You are not present.
Yep. And some of us think that we're not experiencing stress, because everyone would ask me, I'm not stressed out. I handle everything. I handle everything fine. Yeah. Bullshit. Let me find that bullshit card in my back pocket. I would have thrown
Right,
that
right.
myself because there was a lot of times, but I honestly believed that at that time.
Oh yeah.
I believed it.
I always
You know,
thought I was a pretty calm and peaceful person. Well, if that was true, I wouldn't have had the physical problems I had. And then when I actually experienced being present, that was foreign. It was too much. I was like, what is happening right now? My mind's not being crazy. And then when I actually was able to get into a space where, because all my stress, neck and shoulders, all every time. When I mean, it probably was a week or two before I realized I didn't have any shoulder tension.
before
And
you
it hit
realize
me.
it,
Yeah, before I realized it. And
that's awesome.
I stopped and I thought, wow, this shit really works. This is, and then the headaches, because my head, I had so much negativity and overthinking and just shit going on in my head that I had headaches every day. So headaches, muscle and neck tension, muscle, neck and shoulder tension every single day for years. And when I got to a space where that wasn't happening anymore, it seriously took me a week or two before I actually realized it, that, I haven't taken any pain relievers today, right? For me, pain relievers were like Tylenol or Excedrin. There's nothing beyond that. Um, huh, my neck and shoulders haven't been bothering me. But in that process, I was doing my work. I was doing my internal work. I was practicing being present. I was practicing being nicer to myself. And and then life happens, experiences happen, and I got all balled up again. And it was a realization, like, now I get where I was, what I've experienced that's new and feels good, and now I've gone back to where I was. Not as intense, but enough to feel it and know the difference. And until people notice the difference, they don't notice what's possible. And I'm just talking about your physical well-being, just physical well-being. Like, if you don't truly know what relaxation is in your body, then you don't realize how intensely stressed you are in your body now. Did I say that right? Because it wasn't until I felt the calmness and the relaxation and the complete, like, no headache, no tension, did I realize how stressed I actually was, when I thought I was already a calm person. I might have been calm, but I definitely was not relaxed. Right? So noticing that difference. And I would get these little glimpses of it when I was practicing being in the present moment. These are early in the stages of learning all this stuff. Early stages of practicing being in the present moment. Early stage of releasing a layer of that anger. Right? I get a glimpse of, oh, this is what relaxation feels like in that moment. But then as soon as I got up to go back into my life, work, dealing with people, customers, all that is my job, relationships, then I get all balled up again. So it was a constant stressed out glimpse of relaxation. Stressed out glimpse of, right? I just kept playing this, and then but I had to keep practicing the relaxation part. So the more I kept practicing that, the more I wanted to be in it, and then recognizing how unhealthy my life was. And that encompasses the thoughts, the emotions, the relationships, the job, all of it. So it's a process, right? We can't go from being 1 year old to being 30 years old like that. It's a process, right? And we got to shift and change along the way. It's the same thing with your going from completely stressed out to allowing your body to relax. It's a process because you have to notice and recognize the difference and then decide what feels better. And I knew for me, having my body more relaxed feels better.
It does. Well, because you allow flow and everything. And I've heard numerous times from people that have been in and around my life, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. That's bullshit.
That's bullshit.
That is pure bullshit. That's an excuse. That's an excuse for not wanting to be anything different. That's a
mask.
all.
That's a mask.
It is a mask, and it's so easy to hold on to where you're at, and instead of letting go. Maybe that's a fear of letting go and seeing what can play out for you. But life is and can be so much better, so much better. Like you said, it's slow. It's a slow process, or it's fast. It depends on you. Sometimes people just get it, like they just totally just get it right now. And then sometimes for me, it was a little bit slower process. It was me slowing down enough to say, did I just say that to myself? Did I just basically talk crap to myself? Yeah. Would someone else actually do that to me? Because my mind would have all these thoughts. It's like, I don't think someone would actually do that to me. Why am I even thinking such a thing? Why would I waste my time on that? So it's just like it was for me a slow process. It was just looking at these things. And then it's just practicing other thoughts. It's because when you start, even just a simple act of being present, like you said, or just focusing on your breath, you allow the shift to happen. You're not maintaining the other constant. You're letting something else show you a different way. We don't have to know exactly where we're going, but when we just kind of become more present and we start focusing on the breath, we're shown different things. You will see different ways. You will feel different ways.
One of the things as you were talking is when they know they're dying, when they are like in those final stages of dying, they think more about not actually living their life, doing the things that they knew would have brought them joy, and relationships. Like, I should have made the amends with this person, or I should have been a better person to my brother or my mother or my best friend, right? Or my spouse. Those are the things they reflect on. To me, that all stems from having a better relationship with yourself, because however you present yourself to the world is how you're presenting yourself to yourself. You can tell those people who are thoroughly enjoying and loving life, and they treat everybody the same. And you can tell those people who are beating themselves up, they have a good heart and they do things, they are in service to others, but internally they're not in congruency with themselves or the love for themselves. So that becomes a sense of people pleasing or fixers. And you can tell, especially empaths, intuitive beings, we can tell that energy. We can tell, like I can see through people's bullshit. When somebody tells me they're fine and the energy says, I'm feeling like I'm going to lose my mind, I feel into, I'm going to lose my mind energy. And for sure, that's a gift, because if I can feel through that energy, if I can see through that mask, I am going to be more benefit to that person than just allowing them to say, oh yeah, I'm good, life's good, all is good, trying to cover stuff up. But having an amends with yourself, I think, is the utmost importance. Because people and this is something else. It's like, well, I got to get right with Jesus. Well, that, his energy, her energy, however you want to look at it, is your energy. You don't got to get right with Jesus. You got to get right with yourself.
It's true.
So all those layers of pain, anguish, anger, resentment, guilt, shame, criticism, all of it, those are layers that you got to get right with. It's not getting right with somebody external. I got to get right with God, or I got to get right with my spouse, or I got to, no, you got to get right with yourself first, because then that will pour out into everything else.
Because we are all connected.
That's right.
There is no separation at all whatsoever. There is none. And that's taken me some time to really, I mean, I've heard it, read it, listened to it, you know, a lot of things. And it's like, it took me a long time to realize, but we all are, all of us. And by us taking the time to love ourselves, that's also giving ourselves the time to love everybody, because we're all connected, because you can't stop that flow.
And if we're all connected, you're already connected to God.
Exactly.
You were never separated.
Ever.
I just want you to hear that. You were never separated from God. This is not a punishment to be here.
No. And you're not doing something wrong against God. And a lot of religions talk about, you know, doing something to earn your place in heaven and everything else. God is within all of us. God loves us regardless. God loves everybody regardless. People probably don't want to know that, or don't want to believe that in some cases, but God does love everyone. And it's going to be each individual's path or process when they pass, to see how they were with others, to see how they affected others. That's their journey. But it's like our journey, for me, it's just loving. And I'll tell you that we're never separate from God, or the creator of all that is, however you want to look at it. We're never separate, ever. But we separate ourselves from hearing stuff. We block ourselves from being able to receive those messages or that constant flow of love, because let's face it, if you're in a space of anger, you're not going to feel love at the same time. That's how you're blocking it. You're not doing anything else wrong, and it can be changed in a moment. Turn on some music, start singing, start humming, go for a walk, you know, find a way to change what you're thinking or how you're feeling. It's easier than it seems. I've had a struggle on some days, but that just means because I allowed that momentum to carry me so far. I didn't stop it earlier when I could have. Not that I did anything wrong. So maybe that day I needed to be in that space a little while longer. Maybe that space helped provoke something, a change in my thoughts, or maybe I, realized I don't want to be in this space anymore. I don't want to feel like this anymore. So it's not that I did anything wrong, and it's not that you're doing anything wrong when you're going through these processes. It's just that you're just freaking pat yourself on the back and saying, hey, I made it. If I was an asshole, I was a real big asshole. I really did a great job at that, but I'm never going to do it again because it didn't feel good. And that's just paying attention to how you feel. Just really pay attention to how you feel. And it's easy. It's simple.
I'm gonna just change the title of every episode we've done and put that. Just know how you feel. Because we talk about it every single week, people.
But it's so big. But it's so big, and there's so many times I've let myself, go on this path, whatever, and it might, maybe I woke up that morning and I was in a foul mood or something. Usually I'm not, but sometimes I'll get triggered, or something will happen, or maybe something didn't go the way I expected it to, because I do still have expectations, even though we shouldn't. Sometimes it happens and we can get wrapped up in it, but it's like I'll just get on this get this momentum going so fast. I'm not able to stop it then, but if I catch it soon enough, it's really easy.
Yep.
And that's just listening.
I want to go back to what you were saying about, God loves us regardless. Now, I'm an only child. My son's an only child, and of course, as a mother, and I know my mother loves us, and I love my son. But think about if you've had I know you've had more than one child. So you have more than one child. Your mother's love is equal for them. but because of their own experiences, something happened, something was said, right? That one of them gets the idea that they're not loved as much as the other.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, my grandmother had 6 kids. It's amazing how different every one of them is. And one of them feels like they're the black sheep. And we're all like, what are you talking about? You know, it's like we all love you, but he's not feeling that love because he's got some shit going on in his head about who he is and how he fits in or don't fit in. Now that's like the scale of my tip of my pinky nail, right? Now take God of 7 billion people on the planet, loves each and every one of us equally. It's us as the human being that has created the story to say, God doesn't love me, or I'm not good enough for God's love, or I'm not good enough for my mom's love or my dad's love or my siblings' love. We create those stories within ourselves. So I just wanted to give that scale of when you said, you know, God loves us regardless, to take it from a family example to a more grandiose example, and that it doesn't matter. A mother's love is a mother's love. Even mothers love their children even when they become drug addicts or prostitutes or gang members, right? Mother's love is deep. So we have to expand that to God's love is God's love. Love is love. And we're all loved. We get to judge each other. We get to judge ourselves. We get to say what's right and what's wrong socially, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. So it's a matter of, you know, a lot of times I talk to myself a lot. So being an only child, we're pretty good at that. So, but you know, it's like, how would God see this? And how am I seeing it? Right? Making that comparison, like, I'm human, so I have all these other abilities from because we have emotion. What am I bringing into this story that is unnecessary? Unnecessary. And most 100% of the time, it is my past programming that I'm bringing forward into the current experience. Whereas if you're in the present moment, as is God, God is in the present moment always. We're in the present moment. There's no room for those past stories. There's no room for those future stories. We are just right here, right now. Cheers.
True. Cheers. I know sometimes people didn't get that love from their mom, and it might have been someone else, and it might have been later on in their lifetime. But I think but I will tell you, energetically, it's always been there.
Oh, absolutely.
Some of us hadn't been able to recognize it, and I would say for a majority of my life, I had not been able to recognize it. And I was that kid that felt like I was the one. Well, I was always getting into trouble, so because that's how I got my attention.
Sure.
So, and I was always compared to my sister, which I love. At least that's how I perceived it. Was I really? I don't know. In my adult self now, I don't honestly know. Did they always do that? That's probably not even true. They probably had a couple times, you know. I mean, if I was bringing home my report card compared to my sister's report card, and she's, you know, going to school and enjoying school and loving school and stuff, and I wasn't in that space because I wasn't even loving myself. It's like because I was looking for it everywhere outside of myself as I was taught. But it's a crazy place to be because as I perceived it, I was not good enough. So, but I also know at this point in my life, I know it's all around me. I feel my mom and I feel my brother on a regular, and they're both in the non-physical form these days, as far as I know. I mean, they may be in some other form right now that I'm not aware of. I don't know. Which is pretty awesome, I feel like. And that's another thing that connecting us to all again, right? It doesn't matter if we're physical form or non-physical form, we're all connected. Just like with God, like we were talking about being with God and stuff, that we are all connected. God is within all of us. We're all connected to each other. But there is the only thing that separates us. Maybe I'm in physical form and they're non-physical now. That's it. And to me, that's just a little bit of energy difference. That's all. I'm just in some skin right now, in bones.
And if you've ever had, I know you have, but if you ever have a session with a psychic medium and they connect, and a medium, I just want to point this out, just a quick lesson, that everybody has psychic abilities, whether you call it psychic or intuition. Okay, we all have that. That's our gut feeling, right? That knowing. Mediums, psychics are intuitive, period. Mediums are psychic, but not all psychics are mediums. Mediums are the ones that really have the strong ability to connect with the loved ones that have transitioned and deliver the messages that our loved ones have. All mediums are psychic, but not all psychics are mediums. And so if you ever have a session with a medium and they connect with your loved ones, typically people go to us human people, we need that validation that our loved ones are okay when they transition, right? Are they okay? Are they still suffering, right? We have these crazy questions. Now, the people who are living with the guilt of not making amends with a relationship before somebody has transitioned, that is usually the number one message that comes through when they go to a medium to have a reading, to connect with this person. They come through and it's immediately like, I love you regardless, right? I understand why you did what you did. Stop living with that guilt, right? I'm great. I have no more physical pain. I have no more mental problems. I'm in a space of love, right? The message is so uplifting, and it's the message of forgiveness. We're good. Stop living with the guilt while you are in your physical body still, and I am not. While you are still in your physical body, stop living with the guilt.
Punishing yourself.
Yes, quit punishing yourself. Go live your life. Stop hanging on to this story.
It's interesting that you bring that story up, because I was talking to a friend recently, and she was telling me about how her son had come from the other side to talk to somebody else that got the message back to her. It was like, Mom, you're just, because he passed, and he's like, you're taking this way too serious. We're gonna see each other again. Like, you need to let it go, man. Like, basically, let it go. And it's like, it's crazy to me, because really there is really no unresolved. Because even though they may not be here, I feel like I see my brother in such a different light now than I have ever seen in my whole flippin' life. But if he had been here, I probably would not have seen it. I probably would not have understood everything to the point where I do now, where I see him like it's crazy. Like, I love him very, very much. I always did. I sometimes didn't know how to do it, and a lot of times it was from a distance, because that was just easier for me, because I just didn't have anything else to give. But now I see him in such a different light, and not that he was a victim of everything, but he was never given tools to be anything more than he was, and it was so easy for everyone else to look on and think that he was spoiled and everything else. But that's only because he wasn't able to get the things that were important, the emotional support and a lot of that stuff. And I think, and of course, we all have different ways of managing that. His way of managing it was through drugs, through, escaping. Probably didn't even know what he was escaping, but it's like, I have learned so much from him since he's passed. I talk to him all the time. Do I have unresolved feelings with him? I do not think so, because I can talk to him about them all the time.
Mhm.
There's nothing unresolved. There's nothing that I can't talk to him. And it's something, if a new realization comes up for me, I'm discussing it with him. And then I'm telling him how much I love him and how proud I am of him because he was a great teacher.
Mhm.
He was not a loss. Some would have looked at him, oh, he was just a drug addict or he was just this or whatever. It's like, no, no, he wasn't. He was so much more. And on those days that he was so connected, he would lay with his boys and he would just rub their little eyelashes till they fell asleep, or he'd rub their earlobe or play with their eyebrows because he loved them. He loved them in that moment. And it's like a lot of people didn't get to see that stuff. And even if I didn't, he still was those things. There was so much more to him than just being an addict. There was so much more to him than just being, I don't know, everyone thought he was spoiled or he had everything handed to him. Well, sometimes it doesn't give someone the things they think what they could really use, and that's a lot of the emotional or the guidance. And it's like I didn't understand that, I didn't know that, and it was portrayed to me in a different way that it wasn't what it was, which is kind of confusing probably to everyone else, but it was being portrayed to me as differently, that he was just this bad person, I think, in a lot of ways, but he wasn't. Just like none of us are. We're going through an experience, and like I was saying, sometimes we have to love from a distance. But I have learned still so much from him. And he's been gone for a couple years. Like I've learned so much from him this past year, which is mind blowing.
And it would take something, well, it would take his transition and your self-discovery in order for you to tune into that information that
Hmm.
is saying this was the lesson
Yes.
and this is what you can learn from it. When you take your story and your perception out of the picture
Yes.
and look at it from the sidelines and then put the pieces together, and then you get more information that way, because in the time that he was here, you're getting information from other people and their
Yes.
perception, and you
Yes.
draw on that. We all do it. We all draw
Yes.
on that. And that's when I had there was a relationship that happened, and prior to me getting into the relationship, or as soon as I got in, and this is not, this is just like on a friend type of relationship, I had a couple people tell me, don't get involved with that person. They're not right. But I was at a space on my journey that I needed to listen to my own intuition. And I also am the type of person, like, I give people the benefit of the doubt because I know I was changing and I have changed. So maybe the person that they were talking about wasn't the same person as they are in that moment. Does that make sense? Because time had elapsed.
Yes.
So I I basically ignored their input. I'm like, this is my journey, and I need to have this journey for me. And if I feel like this is not the direction to go with this person, then I always have the choice to leave, right? So I went ahead and proceeded with the relationship, and there were, those signposts along the way that said, don't continue this. But not me. I'm like, because I also have that uh no, give them the benefit of the doubt and um keep going, right? This is gonna work. That mentality of just keep going. So, and there were several signposts along the way that my internal guidance was saying, don't keep going, don't keep going. You need to stop. But no, because I also have the it's part of me, my personality, my astrology sign is loyalty. So if you're my friend, I am loyal to you. I am loyal to you. I will give you and help you as much as I can in every way I can. So you have, but as soon as you break that loyalty, we're done. And it takes a lot. Well, it did. Let me put it this way. It did. It took a lot in previous years to get me to that point to say we're done, right? I mean, a lot. So I got to that point. And then when I sat with it and reflected on the journey of our journey together, I'm like, oh, yep, my intuition was telling me then, and my intuition told me then. My intuition probably told me 1,000 times. And it just took that one thing to finally say, this is an unhealthy relationship. And now, you know, I know everything happens for a reason. I went through that process for a reason. It was a learning on my part to trust my intuition, because I was still learning about that, right? I was still learning to trust it. And so when I look, because now as I'm telling you, I'm like, there was 1,000 or more signposts that said, get off the fucking freeway, lady. Don't continue this relationship. I go, okay. I remember how I felt. I remember what I was witnessing. You know, I remember the conversations, and I still didn't listen. So I wasn't trusting, which is part of being confident in your own intuition, to listen and trust it. So I was still building that muscle. Now, you can guarantee when my intuition, when my spirit says, Amie, and it's usually not a calm conversation. It's a, you need to stop, right? It's like an abrupt, hey, you got to stop this. This is not the path to go. I'm listening. I am even more in tune with people's energy. I am more in tune with listening to their words. I am more in tune with conversations they're having. And when it doesn't feel good, I'm like, peace out. I got to go. And then I get to choose, do I keep hanging out with these people or not? That's my choice. Some people, well, let's say family, for example, you go to the family gatherings, they're there. The choice is, do you go to the family gathering or not? Because you might be making the choice not to interact with them, but if you know they're going to be at the family gathering, now you have that choice. Do I go or not? If I go, do I talk to them or not, right? We always have choices. But the lesson for me, and I know it, was listening to my own inner guidance. Now we're going to come full circle to, in order for me to listen to that inner guidance, I have to be fully present with my being.
True. And we can do so many things. We can go different directions, even go into a party. Also, it was Viviana's birthday party. We had it on Saturday. So it's like, before I went there, I was like, I'm going to go there and just have such a good time. We had it at Jim's house. We're going to have a blast there. I mean, it's just going to be so great. I was just setting myself up, because I don't know who's going to show up or what's going to be there. And it's like, at this point, I don't care, because I've done this before, where I've gone to a party and I've set up where I'm going to feel great. And it's not, and I don't constantly start thinking about it and start worrying. I just put it out there, and I'm in a great space, and I've gone to a party, and it's like, oh, did you hear such and such was arguing or fighting? And like, no, I didn't hear anything at all. And I was in such a good space. It's like the kids would come over and sit on my lap, and they'd start giggling for no reason, like giggling, and like be so elated in such a great space. It was an awesome day, but it just goes to show you how easily we can affect things. And by me setting myself up in that place, I wasn't, I didn't have any expectations. I didn't know what was going to happen from there. We just all had a great time. Everybody that was there, I feel like, had a great time. And if they didn't, I didn't know about it, because it was awesome. But it's really setting ourselves up for, like we've talked about, for our day and stuff like that. It's really paying attention to a lot of the energies that are around us, listening to our intuition, because it's huge for you to say, because how many of us have done that? Our intuition's been telling us the whole time not to go do something, and we did it anyways. And it's not because we did something wrong. It was for us to practice flexing that intuition muscle and hearing it. So we kind of got a little bit in touch with it, because sometimes some of us can only learn from the school of hard knocks. I was one of those people. So it's like going through that process. That was the process, and it's like we get down on ourselves a lot of times. Like, "God, why was I listening?" You weren't listening because you didn't listen, but you learned to listen. You were noticing it. So pat yourself on the back. You noticed your intuition was talking to you, even though you chose not to go do whatever it was at that time. But it's with us all the time. We've got this internal guidance that we have all the time. It's like, don't be fooled by the things that you're being told. Really tune into stuff. And that was one thing about that book, and that Dying to Be Me book. She was talking about how she was really one with everyone, and she even noticed it once she came back, like one with everyone. Like she would understand what you were talking about before you said, like as you were saying things, she already knew, like as if she was inside of your energy at that time when it was happening. So she kind of perceived things differently, which I believe we all can. I don't think that we have to have a near-death experience to experience any of this stuff. It's just a matter of fine-tuning to yourself, paying attention to yourself, because then, like we've talked about, meditation, focusing on your breath, you start noticing more things. It'll surprise and delight you. Life is amazing. It's supposed to be amazing. It is. I don't think it was meant to be anything else but. And yes, we're going to have crap that goes on around us that maybe we don't agree with, but if we're in a different space, we perceive things differently. It's like an unfolding of a story. Sometimes we don't know exactly what's going on right now in that story, but we don't have to give all of our energy to it in such a negative way that it feels so bad or let it drag us down. It doesn't have to be that way. Perceive the story, and it's like, watch it, but also at the same time, set your intentions that you're going to have a great day, or set your intentions how you want to feel about things, and then see what happens. And then don't think about it. Don't worry about it. Don't look at your clock and say, holy shit, it still hasn't happened yet. No, go on and enjoy your day. Find things to do that you enjoy in your day. And if you don't know what that is yet, you better start exploring, because ain't nobody else going to do it for you. And if they do, you're not going to really appreciate what they're telling you, because that's their perspective. It's not yours.
Yes. Yes, yes, and yes. You're so wise, Beverly. So wise.
We all are. If we let that flow through us, I can let my jackassery flow through me too. Pretty dang good
Oh
sometimes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, I got that too. I feel that the people who have had near-death experiences, that they are teachers. That they, for one, I think, I know I've heard or have read where people were just in a really bad space with their life and had a near-death experience to open them up to realize all of this that you're talking about through Anita's book. And they're also the messengers to the rest of us to say we are all connected.
And not to hold on to such attachment to things, to
Yes.
person, places, situations, things. It's like all the stuff around us doesn't really matter. It does if it helps us bring us present, but it's not something that should be all consuming. It's not the most important. It's not. We're here to experience things. We're here to feel things.
Yes. Would it be beneficial if more than half the planet had a near-death experience? Maybe, because it would be a big, huge shift for everybody. But at the same time, we have these people who have had the near-death experiences, who have been in that realm of feeling that love, unconditional love, and making amends with themselves over the experiences that they've been holding on to. And they are sharing their stories for the rest of us to learn, for the rest of us to embrace and grow from. And so there's a lot of benefit in all these people sharing their stories, like Anita's. So, but what, like myself, I've not had a near-death experience, but it feels good to me to say we're all connected. Like, we are love. We have a spirit. That spirit is unconditional love, God's unconditional love. And I feel good about teaching that and holding that space for other people. But it doesn't matter how much I hold that space for you until you connect with it for yourself. You're going to continue to live in your past stories. You're going to continue to seek love from other people. You're going to continue to seek the acceptance from other people. And it all just goes from within first. Connect to your own spirit, that unconditional love that you already have within yourself, and connect to that for yourself. And then you will experience what Bev and I have been talking about and practicing for several years. And even so, like Bev's reading this book about Anita's life journey with this. She had a lot of tumors in her body. Like she was seriously on her deathbed. I'm reading a book about children's past lives, and I love knowing that this is not it. This is not it. And last week I was walking down the hallway or something, and I kind of stopped in my tracks, and I was like, this is my spirit's dream. So I am physically living I'm walking in a dream. Okay. If my spirit is this is the projection of my spirit, am I living up to my spirit's expectations? Right. And I was just started contemplating, like, is this the life that I've been having and currently living, what my spirit wanted me to do when I came here? If and you've heard it. I don't know if you've heard it. I've heard it several times. Like, this is a dream, right? And if this is a dream, I have control over that dream, and I get to say what this dream is all about. And I've been living the dream of I'm not worthy of anything good.
Yes.
But if this is my dream as a spirit, my spirit's dream, my spirit is already worthy. So that means I, in this dream, am worthy, and I can have whatever I want. So it's been an interesting process, just thinking about that, thinking about life from that perspective. So, awesome. And every once in a while, I go into these deep thoughts like that, like questions like that just pop up. Like in the beginning of what I call my spiritual, conscious spiritual journey was, is this really all there is to life? Because I was really angry, right? I've shared that before. So that's kind of where that deep thinking question started, because I had been asking that question for quite some time within myself. But as I learned from books, teachers, and my own personal growth, then these deep-seated questions like that come up for me to contemplate. And it's interesting because each time something like that comes up, there's a shift in me where I start living differently or seeing things differently.
Yeah.
Perceiving things differently. And it was just like, I have control over this dream and I get to choose. I always have. I've always had the choice.
Just weren't aware of it.
I just wasn't fully aware of what was possible, I guess.
Which opens up a doorway to daydreaming, right? So daydreaming and you can't always do it if you're not in a good space mentally. If you're angry, upset, or any of that stuff, creating probably isn't ideal at that time. I would say don't. Find yourself in a good space, but it's like when you're in that good space and you're in a relaxed space where you know you're relaxed and focusing on that stuff, we can create everything. So we've been creating all along. That's the thing. If you stop and realize, because it's not someone else like you talked about before, it's not someone doing it to you, you're doing it to yourself. And it's something you're creating. I was living in that story of lack of confidence. I was not good enough. And it was actually even more a couple weeks ago that my daughter had said something to me like, Mom, you're freaking amazing. And it's like, and you're worth it. And I don't know, for some reason it clicked in me, not in a egoic way, but in a way that you're right. I am worth it. I am worthy. I am deserving. I do deserve all this stuff. And it's like, for me, that was a click for it, but recognizing that. And then it's like, now I can build from that. Cause I was telling myself a different story all these years. I was making my story, and I've always joked around or even put up posts about like, you're writing your own book right now. If every thought you're thinking right now is creating your story, are you creating the story you want to create? Because I haven't been,
Right.
but I can. And it's just a matter of practice, and maybe daydreaming is one of those ways, you know, and we don't know what's possibly better without being, like you've talked about before too, being around who are the 5 closest people to you. Are they people that are like trying to grow, or not trying to grow, that are growing, that have great imaginations, that are creating an amazing story? Because that's what you want to be around. That's the kind of energy you want to be in, because we're all connected. So if you're in that space and in that energy, you're already feeling it. I can read a book and I can feel the person's energy, whether they have an ego, whether they have an attitude. I'll pick up the attitude right from that story. It's like, it's all energy. That's all it is. It's just energy. And it's like, be mindful of who you have around you. Be mindful of how you want to grow yourself. What music are you listening to? What are the words that are coming out? Because even some of the music I listen to, some of it's because I don't always listen to my uplifting music all the time, but I'll listen to like Megan Trainor and some of the stuff. But sometimes their words aren't really words that I want to have in my experience. But on other songs, like the song that she created, "I Love Me," was a freaking awesome song. It is an awesome song. It really is. I love it. But it's like really being mindful of the energy that you're in. Who are you spending time with? If you're around people that are depressed and angry and frustrated all the time, you're probably going to feel angry, frustrated, and depressed all the time. Notice what you're spending time in. And maybe you can keep a couple of those friends, but you'll start noticing even if you start listening to certain people, listen to Eckhart Tolle, listen to Abraham Hicks, listen to other people that have a different view on things, a different energy. Because it's not just their words they're saying, it's an energy that your awareness, it brings you into awareness for. It helps to lift you. It helps to open up your possibilities, because otherwise it's very limiting.
And if the people around you are still angry and pissed off at the world, they're not the ones you want to grow with.
And they're going to fall away anyways. They just are, because as you start changing and as your energy starts changing, you don't come together. It's like you'll try to plan a date and dates just don't happen. They just don't, because it's like you're in 2 different areas. It's like things just don't match up. They're not going to, and they're not supposed to. Don't make it happen. If it's supposed to happen, it's supposed to happen, but you don't make things happen. You just let it happen. You just kind of learn how to be.
In the present moment.
That's right. That's right.
Well, we have given you an earful today.
Yes.
If you did not get any benefit from this recording, you need to listen to it again. And I do say need. And not very often I tell people they need to do something. There was a lot of information that we presented here today. And even through our conversations, Bev and I learned from each other every week. So we know that there's stuff here for you as well. So we want to thank you for being with us. Tea Time with Amie and Bev. And we're looking forward to seeing what comes up next week. Because as you know, all of our conversations are very organic. We never have a conversation about what we're going to talk about. It just organically blossoms. And this is the information we bring forward. So is it a gift? I think so, but it's also from our own wisdom, from our own growth, and we thrive on sharing that with you. So thank you for being with us, and we will see you next week or talk to you next week.
That's right. So make a magical week.
All right. See you later.
Bye.